Morning, guys. Welcome. I see it's almost 11 o'clock. We are going to give an extra 2 or 3 minutes for a couple of guys for the last couple of guys just to sign in. We've had 170 registrations for the meeting, which is great. We expect close to about half of the guys to not sign in because of, I don't know, last minute things happening, guys forgetting about it, guys being stuck in meetings or whatever the case may be. So we'll give a couple of guys 2 more minutes to sign in, and then we'll get right on with it. It's nice to see a couple of familiar names. This is an interesting, it's a new year, and this is the first meeting for 2024. I think this is going to be an interesting year. I would have expected the year to start off with a bit more of a bang, simply because load shedding has resumed. So I would have thought that maybe I should switch my camera on. I would have thought that that the year would have had a bit more punch as far as starting up is concerned, but maybe it's a bit of what do they call it, January, the first three months of January being an issue. Guys starting up with school, not having money to spend on solar systems, but spending it on education, school, and starting up with school goodies. I think a lot of guys have semi-grated or moved during December, so we would see a lot of money having gone in there. Is it just me, or is the audio very soft? So I can put the microphone there. I don't know if that's going to be better. Hugo, is it better? I have another option. Slightly better. How's it, Nick? Okay, so it's not just Hugo. Let's try the MacBook Pro. Let's try the laptop. So if I do that one, then I've external microphone off, and then I'm working through the laptop mic itself. I don't know if that sounds any better. I'm happy with doing whatever works. Well, guys, it's 2 minutes past. Oh, we are close to 50 participants, so I think we might just as well start. We've got the guys from Rubicon sharing some interesting information with us today. And I think for me, the members meetings, I've been a member with a host of associations, and members meetings could really be, what do we call it? Boring. Let's just call it what it is. Members meetings could be extremely boring, so we are trying to make it a bit more exciting and having some interesting content. We are going to be looking at a couple of complaints. So there's an energy industry ombudsman that AREP helped create last year, towards the end of last year. This function has received a number of complaints already. A few reports have been written, few replies, a few good cases, few bad cases that have not been resolved. So I'm going to give a bit of feedback on that. So that's exciting. A lot of stuff we can change in our businesses to reduce the impact or the risk. So having a look at what people complain about and how those are managed, we'll take a look at that. We've got Tian from Rubicon talking about what was the acronym AREP. There's a tax on, and I don't know if you guys knew. So we are going to be looking at starting up a business in the solar industry. And if you are going to be starting up a business in the industry, what if you want to import your own goods? Are you supposed to be aware of and know about? Sometimes we look at some of the larger distributors, we look at what they charge for products and we go, yeah, I can probably import this much cheaper. And but I think there might be a lot of things that we don't know about that you're supposed to include in your costing model. So Tian's going to be sharing some information with us there, and I think it's a good time to start. Maybe start the meeting. Mariusha, I believe the meeting is being recorded. Everybody would have received a notification when you logged in. My name is Carl Ballack. I'm involved with AREP, and I'm excited to be chairing this meeting. Mariusha, can you scroll to the agenda, please? Well, okay. This section, though, I believe is Anne's section. Oh, Are you going to show the agenda, or am I supposed to look at the agenda on my side?
So you have the agenda, and then I can show the slideshow. But if you want to view the agenda rather, that's also fine.
Yeah, I think just show us the agenda quickly. Let's just run through the agenda, okay, so the guys know what to expect. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay. Let me just see. You actually sent me the agenda earlier on. Sorry, I thought you were going to display the agenda, and then
I'm quickly finding it. I'll just open it just now. Here we go. Oh wait, I'll try something different.
Okay. It's quite amazing if you have a lot of social media activity. just trying to remember where you got the stuff to start off with. On which social platform was it posted? That's quite interesting. Because I know Marisha sent me the agenda. Can't you find it?
I am, there we go. That should be clear. I hope that is big enough for everyone to see. Does that work?
No.
No. Okay.
We can't see your screen.
Oh. Okay, let me try again.
You might have to share the entire screen. It's going to be easier.
Sharing is paused. Why is my screen sharing paused? That's very weird.
Oh, you were busy sharing the presentation. There you go. That we can see. Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much. So guys, what we've got there, we are going to go through a quick membership update with Anne. She's going to just quickly talk about the number of members and what they all do. Then I'm going to quickly talk about the Energy Industry Ombudsman, the association's plans for 2024. Marisha, next page, please.
Okay.
Cool. We've got an interesting webinar event coming up that we'll be talking about, and then yeah, social media and exhibitions, and then oh, Nick, are you going to be presenting on EPR fees? Sorry, I thought that was going to be Tian. You guys obviously had a bit of a swap out, which is fine. I didn't know about it. Okay. Anne, are you there?
Yeah. Morning, everybody. I'm just going to give you a quick update on our membership. So in total, we currently have 3,637 members. We're standing on 102 company members at the moment and 20 founding members. The P4 test taken in January is a bit slow. We're on 45 at the moment, but I think it will pick up soon. And then we have a special offer for, well, from today until the 31st of January. If you're keen to register your company with the association as a company member, we will throw in a free level 1 P4 test. So please contact me if you want to go ahead and sign up for company membership, and then I will give you more information on that. I think that's it from me.
Thanks, Anne. Wow, total of 3,637 members. That's amazing. Okay, guys. So when AREP was created, the association that we were looking at from a competitive member base was at the time was the Association for Energy Engineers, AEE, and when AREP was created, the AEE had 17,000 members. So I think in the back of my mind, that is kind of where we are aiming as far as membership is concerned. We are looking at having a slightly broader base of members. And I think 17 to 20,000 members for me is a fair number of members. They would obviously not just be based in South Africa. Hopefully with the next members meeting, we might be able to showcase a bit of information on where the members are based. That would be interesting. Okay, so IOSA, next item on the agenda, if we have a look at a feedback on the first 6 months of operations. So we assisted, when I say we, I'm referring to AREP, assisted in creating an energy industry ombudsman function. In the first 6 months, an office was identified, I think in Edenvale or Germiston. Niameko was appointed to fulfill the position. Niameko is currently at his office, and there have been a couple of interesting cases. So there are three that I quickly want to discuss before we move on. One was, the first one that caught my attention was online scams. Guys, if there is a tender going around, so the tender wasn't a complaint, but I wanted to talk about tenders as far as online scams are concerned, because I've got it listed over here, and then I'll talk about the complaint. If you get an email from a government department asking you to tender on a product, and they give you one serial number and say they want to have X number of these units, and you Google that serial number, you will find more often than not that serial number is only linked to one, maybe two, maybe three websites. If you take the time to go and see the guys, these websites are usually well designed, they look amazing, they look professional, and it looks like these guys have all their ducks in a row and everything checks out. I've gone as far as taking the contact details of the guys who are running the scam. I checked the company registration with Cypro, and at the time the company existed. But you've got to physically go into Cypro. So you log into the Cypro online account, you type on the company itself, and you request information on that company. And this particular company was deregistered by Cypro. So the number exists. It exists as an intellectual property, or as a legal body. So it has been registered. And what happened was Cypro deregistered this company, and the guys who were busy fraudulently trading against this name used that name to make it look legit. That's the one thing. The other thing is, if you are going to be tendering, make sure, just double check yourself, go and find where the suppliers are based. If they say they're at a specific address, either drive through, have a look at the address, or send someone to go and make sure that they actually exist and that it's a legitimate company. Then as far as online scams are concerned, we've had one or two distributors advertising on a website, selling equipment through websites, and then they either partially deliver or they completely deliver the goods. But they either deliver the wrong goods, or they deliver a different quality, or they just don't deliver at all, and they disappear into thin air. We've had a number of the complaint specifically. The complaint we had relates to one company based in Belleville, and I don't know how people continue buying from companies if there are bad reviews on the internet. So this company continues to exist. They've been in operation for about 2 years now, and they just don't deliver the goods. Anyway, yet people continue doing installations. People continue buying through them. So do yourself a favor, double check and see whether the companies are legit before you put money into their bank account. Then the next one, building sites. One complaint we had was of a contractor who quoted on a project. It's a new building site. He arrived at the building site with his team on the day that he was supposed to do the installation, and the building wasn't completed yet. As building projects normally do, this project was delayed, could have been as a result of rain or whatever. But the contractor, the solar contractor, wasn't informed that the building project had been delayed, so they arrived and they couldn't do the installation. They then issued an invoice to the customer for time they wasted on site, and the customer refused to pay. So the contractor then decided that he wasn't going to continue or go ahead with the installation, seeing that the contractor refused to pay. So guys, a couple of things we can learn over here. One is the main reason why you have a business is for the business to be sustainable. So you are responsible for making sure that your business are that your business business is sustainable and that you're making money at the end of the day. And in order to do this, you have to make sure that your costs are covered. So the contractor was within his right to charge for the additional time because it was not his fault that the project had been delayed. The result is, if I remember correctly, that the contractor provided the customer with the material or the equipment as part of the mitigation, just to kind of resolve the complaint. Contractor delivered the equipment to the customer's site, and apparently the customer will sort out the installation with a different contractor. That's the one. The other one was long distance projects. Someone in Joburg did an installation in Cape Town, and now there's maintenance to be done, or something happened within the 12-month period where all the goods are kind of warranted under an installation warranty. And so a fuse blew. And now the contractor who did the original work is based in Gauteng, but the installation is in Cape Town. And now he says, but it's too expensive to go through to Cape Town to service the unit. What we learn out of this is either make sure that you've got a relationship with someone in the province where you are doing other work to cover yourself in case something goes wrong with the installation. It is the contractor who did the original work's responsibility to fix the fault. What he then did is he contacted a contractor in Cape Town who went out to have a look at the site, and then the guy said, sorry, according to me, the site is not compliant, so I am not touching the installation. What we can learn out of this, every electrician would be applying the standards and the regulations in their own way, and this could sometimes cause issues, as it did in this case. So what do we do here? One, make sure you've got a contractor in the area where you do the installation so that they can go out and service the unit if needs be. The other is don't do long distance work if you can't service. I know it's not that easy because you might be doing the solar installation for the MD of a company and they've got one branch in a different province. So you're kind of forced to do it because you feel, you know, you need to provide service. Otherwise, with the next project, they're going to get the guy from Cape Town to do the work you were supposed to be doing. So it is a bit of a tough call, but I think the nice thing about that is what industry associations are supposed to be for is to be able to network, and you should be able to contact other contractors in other provinces to assist you with certain functions. So you have to absolutely expand on your network. Okay, guys, next point, plans for 2024. I see that's also my section. Research and articles. AREP aims to focus on industry research. You are going to have a lady by the name of Jocelyn Hill. Jocelyn is amazing on the telephone, and she absolutely enjoys chatting to members and finding out how you guys are, what you're up to. And you are going to be hearing from Jocelyn again, because we like, the only place where we can get an industry body like AREP can get information is from its members. So it's important to have someone like Jocelyn to phone around. We are not planning on having Jocelyn replaced with an AI voice. So you guys will be happy to know, and so will Jocelyn. I have over the last 2 weeks had quite a few spam calls with AI generated voices or computer generated voices. It is insanely frustrating. We are going to try and keep it real. So it would be nice if you could assist us in just getting some information on what you guys do, what you're busy with, and that kind of thing. We are planning on publishing a report, and it should make for some interesting reading. Okay, then, wait, yes, the work. just go back to the bottom section there, topic suggestions. If you guys have suggestions on specific reports that you would like to see or articles that you would like to see information on, you're welcome to send that information through to Mariusha. She'll make a list. Mariusha is very structured, so if Mariusha does something, it's more than likely that we'll be able to keep record of it and act on it. So you can send that through to Mariusha. She'll sort it out. Next page. Thanks, Mariusha. AREP webinar events, guys, exciting stuff. We've got the Department of Employment and Labor. We've got a meeting coming up with them. So industry is fairly split, 50-50. One half of industry says the single phase tester is allowed to sign off a single phase solar powered installation. The other half of industry says no, they are not. We had a meeting with the Department of Labor in October 2022. That meeting was published on the website as well as on AREP's YouTube channel. Shortly after that meeting, there were some of the guys who were included in that meeting who claimed that the meeting was edited, and there were even guys who claimed that the meeting never happened. So great news, we've got another meeting with the Department of Employment and Labor coming up. And this time we are stepping it up because we are also going to have the Chief Inspector in the meeting. We are going to be looking at, in that meeting, we are going to be looking at whether single phase testers are allowed to sign off or not. That meeting is going to be huge. I'm expecting at least 600 guys to be attending. So it will be nice if you guys can join us as well. We don't have a date for it yet. I have had confirmation from the Department of Labor. Should I say Department of Employment and Labor? So I have had confirmation and I have a proposed date. We are just waiting for the Chief Inspector to confirm the date, and then we will circulate the date with you guys. So I'm very excited about that. Then we'll be able to hear what the Chief Inspector says and what the guys at the DOL says about whether it's allowed or whether it's not allowed. Item number 2, AREP Solar PV Risk Insights, where we look at financing, ensuring solar PV systems, surge and lightning protection, and then operations and maintenance. So we are going to be having webinars where we raise interesting topics, and those are the topics listed there for now. Again, if there are other topics that you'd like to have a webinar about and would like Mariusha to list so we can keep track of it, you're welcome to send Mariusha an email. Then we've got a Tier 2 distributors webinar. So guys, we have Tier 1 distributors. As far as I'm concerned, a Tier 1 distributor is someone who has an agreement on sole distribution rights of more than one product, so multiple products. So if you're the sole distributor of a specific battery and you're only the sole distributor for that one battery, then according to the distributor steering committee in AREP, you're not a Tier 1 distributor. So you need to have the distribution rights of multiple products, and you need to have a bouquet of products that you can offer. That's considered to be a Tier 1 distributor. Tier 2 distributors are guys who are busy with installations. They might have a small shop somewhere. So they would typically buy some products from Tier 1 distributors. Look, I understand that Tier 1 distributors swap out products and they share containers and that kind of thing. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a guy with an individual or a business that has a premises and they import goods and buy from Tier 1 distributors. We are planning on having a Tier 2 distributors webinar where we are going to be talking about the risks of owning a shop. I've heard of a number of guys who own shops that have had theft, issues with theft, and that have been burgled. So I think it's important to understand what yes, this sounds so, the modus operandi. How do these guys operate? What happens? What are the typical kind of communication schemes? They would phone, place an order. You say, I don't have stock, but I've got stock coming in next week. And now all of a sudden that guy knows you've got stock coming in next week. So they plan to raid a shop next week sometime. So there are different ways and different processes they follow in order to obtain enough information before they arrange a break-in. So we can look at that. We can look at risks. I think to a certain extent, the discussion Nick has later today comes out of the Tier 1 distributors webinar as well. So it's good to inform guys about what's happening in industry, and Nick's going to do exactly that. Then item C, AREP exhibitions at upcoming events. We are going to be joining Solar Power Africa. So it's nice to be part of the Solar Power Africa initiative. We've been kind of sidelined for a couple of years. And when I say we, AREP has been sidelined for a couple of years. So I'm glad AREP is back in the fold. So it's nice to be involved at the Solar Power Africa show. AREP website. Yeah, guys, we've got a new website coming up. We have worked on the site for a long time, and we eventually employed or contracted web developers towards the end of last year. So they've been working on the site and the coding for quite some time. AREP Online is going to be a nice, fast, and it will be a much smoother, what's the word, experience than what the existing site is. The existing site's a bit frustrating, and it has a lot of issues as far as integration and that kind of thing is concerned. Okay, then LinkedIn and Facebook, you guys are welcome to go and have a look at the AREP LinkedIn page and the AREP Facebook page. Please like and follow, that would be nice. And then we've got the hybrid test report booklets. You can download the hybrid test report free of charge. So you can use the hybrid test report when you go and do a solar installation and you need to issue a test report as part of the COC. You can use the hybrid test report as the test report that is attached to that COC. You can also buy the hybrid test reports in a already printed format. So you can either get it in PDF or you can have it in a printed format. And I think that brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is EPR fees. Nick, are you there?
Hello, Carl. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Amazing. Awesome. Okay, thanks, everybody. I'm not here on my own. I'm also with Tian, but also Dylan, who is our head of compliance, is also here. So, Dylan, can you hear me? And you want to just do a sound check?
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome. There we go. Hello, guys. I know quite a few of the people on the call from interactions over the years, but if you don't know me, I'm Nick. I work for Rubicon. I've been here for 13 and a half years. And my current job description is everything. No, I'm head of product, so under that falls all kinds of things, especially when people start talking about, are you aware of this latest new law? So I've been involved in this with Dylan for some time, and I'll introduce Dylan to you. He is our head of compliance. He comes from the national regulator, so the NRCS, the people who are responsible for enforcing compulsory regulations. And in the solar industry, it's patchy, and sometimes that's worse than not having anything or having everything, because you don't really know where you stand. And I think this is a good example of that. The laws are there, but not everybody understands them. They're maybe not 100% clear. Maybe they weren't published and publicized very well. And so we have a little bit of an expert here, because he knows how the regulator thinks, but he also knows the regulations themselves. And those are very useful things to use together when you're trying to figure out this kind of thing. So I'm going to share my screen, and Dylan, please do jump in with me as I'm going. Dylan has done an enormous amount of very good work on this, so I can't take credit for all of his hard work. I just need to get my Zoom to behave because it's not sharing my screen correctly, so just bear with me. Let's see if it's going to do it well. Sure. Okay, can you guys confirm that you can see that?
Good.
Great. Okay, so what is EPR? It's a little bit of a buzzword, and maybe we don't even know what it is. So EPR stands for Extended Producer Responsibility, and in the end, it's an environmental protection law. It is very closely, well, it's a very close copy of a European law that is. It's almost word for word if you go and read the legislation. The UK has exactly the same thing as well. There's minor tweaks to it, but it's not just something that was plucked out the sky. It's really an international standard, let's say. And what it's all about is making sure that goods that are produced are responsibly disposed of. That's kind of the bottom line. And it's not specifically a solar industry discussion. It is a general waste electronic goods or waste electronic equipment thing. So it's applicable to hair dryers and toasters and washing machines and many things, any appliance. But there is a focus on the solar industry because of the volume of equipment that's coming in. If you think about the numbers of devices that are coming into the country, you know, there's this sort of, people are saying how much equipment came into the country last year. Well, it could be as much as 2 gigawatts of solar panels. If there's as much as that, or even half that, break that down into the numbers of containers and the number of individual panels that are going to have to be recycled just from this year, or last year, I mean, the numbers are staggering. So it does make sense. The basis, or the kind of the cornerstone of it, or the bottom line, is that if you are either the manufacturer in South Africa, or you are the importer, in other words, the person whose name is on the SARS documents, you are directly responsible for that. What does it mean? Well, it means that you have to provide for the disposal of that equipment. And you can do that in one of two ways. You can either do it yourself, and that's fine, or you can appoint what's known as a PRO. And the PRO is the person who's kind of your third-party contractor, let's call it, who will do it for you. That's the synopsis of what it is. So if you and now you could say, well, you know, I'm not a distributor, I'm an EPC. You know, if you are the importer of record, so Carl mentioned earlier on, you know, maybe you think you can bring the stuff in cheaper or better or faster or fancier yourself, no problem. You are then the EPR laws are, or the EPR law applies to you as the importer of record. So in our particular case, if you go and look at the way that the law is written, it says that. Well, let me come back to that in a second. The law is quite onerous. If you want to be the appointed person, whether you are the importer or the PRO, you have quite a few responsibilities that you have to fulfill, and some of them are not that easy to fulfill. So, for example, you have to involve waste pickers in your plan. So, in other words, there's an employment responsibility. You know, there's community and social responsibilities built into the law. and yeah, you also have to be able to prove what you've done with them, the fees that you've collected, how are you going to do it, and it's all fully audited. So even just as an importer, Rubicon is being audited by the Department of Fisheries, the DFFE, to check that what we say we're doing is indeed the truth, you know. So it boils down to a cost, because you can't recycle these things in a net cash positive way. In other words, you can't make as much money from them as it costs from the raw materials as it costs to recycle them. There is a net cost involved. So let's make up a number. Let's say to recycle a solar panel, you know, the raw materials that are going to come out of it, you're going to make 3 Rand in aluminium and 2 Rand in copper and 50 cents in you know, glass or whatever the other materials are. The reality is the cost of doing that is going to be higher than that. It might be 30 or 40 bucks. So there's a net cost, which means that you have to provide for that cost on day one. So when you sell that solar panel, let's say it's 2,000 Rand for the sake of argument, there is a fee attached to it. Now you can absorb it if you want to out of your margin, or you can pass it on. The original version of the law said that you had to itemize that cost in your invoice. They've actually amended that now, and they said, okay, it's fine. You don't have to itemize it if you don't want to. But somewhere along the line, you have to have that 30 bucks and you have to put it somewhere. You've either got to give it to your PRO, or if you are the PRO, you've got to have it in a fund and manage it for the lifetime of the product until such time as you need to spend that money. So if you look at all of the responsibilities, Rubicon as an organization took the decision to appoint a PRO, and they do all of that for us. So they're the middleman or the third party that I mentioned. There are several of them, but the PRO that you appoint also has to be accredited. It's not, you know, you can't just phone your mate up and have an agreement between you. It's a proper accredited organization. They're also audited quite heavily as well. Okay, they will, at the end of the life of the product, take over the full responsibility. So Rubicon will phone up our PRO and say, you know, solar plant ABC is being deconstructed. Please go and fetch all the solar panels. They then send a truck, and they then will take them to the waste disposal facility and fully and properly dismantle and recycle that down to its base components in a way that complies with what the law requests. You know, it's not like they can dig a hole and bury them and say, okay, we've done what you asked. It doesn't work like that. Okay, so I know that if you haven't heard of this whole thing before, you're probably going, gosh, this sounds like there's a lot of question marks here. How did this come about? Why does nobody know about it? Where does all this money go? Is it going into dodgy pockets? Who's going to sit on the money? How can we prove that it's still going to be there in 10 years? You know, there's like 52 different questions, and we asked all of those questions. We had a large number of people sitting in a room more than once from our organization going, how does this make any sense? What happens? Is it going to make us uncompetitive? What about the people who don't bother doing it? We went through all of those things, and in the end we said, okay, well, let's get a legal opinion and see what their opinion was. And we actually used one of the big firms. I think it was either ENS or Weber Wenzel, I can't remember. They came back and said, there's no discussing this. It is the law and it does apply to you. Don't waste your time arguing about it. So we spent the money, and we have now gone ahead with the implementation of the EPR, or of EPR within our organization. Just one of the lines there, it says it's not merely a recommendation, it is absolutely mandatory, and it is absolutely legally enforceable, with severe penalties up to jail time for the directors if you don't comply. So then the question is, okay, well, if it's absolutely mandatory, how do we apply it? What is it applicable to? There are multiple things outside of our industry that, as I mentioned, you know, there's electrical and electronic equipment, lighting and lighting equipment, paper and packaging, portable batteries, and lubricant oil. Those are the 5 headline items. Within line number 1, the electrical and electronic equipment, you can imagine how broad that is. It's super broad. You know, people like Samsung or LG or Massmart, for example, have had to register. The way that the scheme works is that you need to register yourself on the DFFE website. So there's a little database on the DFFE website. You can go and open it yourself and see who is registered and who is not. And you'll see there's the Massmarts and the LGs and the Samsungs and all those kind of obvious people are all on there. And they are largely compliant. The large corporates are certainly taking it seriously. But there are also some obvious holes in the list. If you look through the list, you'll definitely see some names that are conspicuous by their absence. Okay, so within the energy sector, who are the or what are the key items? So solar panels, inverters, batteries, paper and packaging, and EV chargers. The other thing that is on the list is cable as well. Cable is a little bit of a different animal because cable has value. So it's very unlikely that I'm going to pay somebody 10 Rand a meter to go and recycle it when I can sell it for 20 Rand a meter. But it is nonetheless covered by the regulations. I'm sorry, I can't present and see any hands and chats and stuff at the same time very easily, so please interrupt me if you have anything to say. So the question then is, what is the cost to recycle this stuff? How does it work? It's all done on a per kilogram basis, and the cost per kilogram depends on what the item is. So if you're recycling a battery, you'll see the fee there, 3.17 Rand. If you're doing a solar panel, 1.26 Rand. So the numbers vary according to what it is. And that's something that you negotiate, or you either calculate it for yourself for what it's going to cost you, if you're going to be the recycler, or you're going to take on the responsibility, or you negotiate that cost with your PRO. Now, the numbers are not just kind of plucked out the air, they are also approved by the DFFE as well. The PRO we use has a certain structure, and that's sort of approved. Now, to calculate, okay, well, what does that mean per product? You know, if a solar panel weighs, let's say 30 kilos, for example, you can multiply it by 1.26 Rand. You can see you're in for a bill of somewhere in the region of 30 or 40 bucks, depending on what solar panel it is. Inverters, 1.18 Rand. Batteries, so if you're looking at industrial batteries, is around 3 Rand a kilo. Lithium-ion batteries, 3 Rand a kilo times 40 kilos or whatever it is, depending on the size of the battery. You know what it's going to cost you. As a percentage of the product, it obviously varies, but it's fairly low single digits, 2, 3, 4%, something like that, depending on what you're talking about. It can be a little bit more on lower value items. Yeah, it varies a little bit.
Hi, Nick.
Hi.
Nick, sorry, just want to apologies for the interruption. You did say we should do just that. So I've got a quick question. We've got a couple of guys that have logged in after you've started, so they might not be aware of what it is you're actually presenting on. Would it be fair for me to summarize it by saying that everybody that distributes products have to pay a recycling fee in order to ensure that whenever the goods come to the end of life, that the recycling of the product would be taken care of? Is that a fair way of stating it?
Yeah, that's a fair summary. The cornerstone of the conversation is you are responsible for recycling anything you either manufactured or imported. And what that boils down to is a cost to do so at the end of its life.
Okay, that's great. So everybody bringing products into the country has to effectively add this as a cost on the selling value.
So you can either absorb it or you can pass it on. If you want to absorb it out your margin, then you're allowed to do that. If you want to pass it on, that actually the law says you are supposed to pass it on, but they're not forcing anybody to do that. In our industry, it's obviously, it's competitive. The margins are razor thin, especially on a large project. You can imagine if you're tendering on a 1 megawatt or a 5 megawatt or a 50 megawatt, 100 megawatt solar plant, the margins are super thin. and it's difficult to just absorb that. Absorb 3% or something on top of your cost of the product. So in many cases, it would have to just be passed on. But that's a commercial conversation for the importer to have. I just want to emphasize, Carl, you mentioned that if you're the distributor and you're bringing it in, remember that it's not just, you can't just use the distributor label, it's the importer. So if it was a distributor, if it was an EPC, if it was your granny trying to do something with her pension money to make a few extra bucks, she is the importer of record and she is liable for it. Now, the reality is she's probably not going to do anything, but if the letter of the law says you have to, if she's the importer, she's liable for that.
Okay.
And if there's an inspection and you are found to be the importer and you haven't dealt with the EPR, then the law says that you need to be, you are liable.
Okay, that's great. I see Mtokozisi asked that exact question. So it's not per se the guy distributing the products, but it's the guy importing the product.
Correct. So whoever has the SARS customs documents, you are liable. Whatever that entity name is, that's the liable entity. There's one other entity that is liable, and that is if you are the manufacturer in South Africa. So some examples would be Apex with our inverters, Solar MD with their batteries, whoever. Think of all the guys who are making stuff locally. That would be the only alternative, or the only other responsible party would be the local manufacturer.
Okay, is there anything, Mark asks, and I don't know whether I'm prematurely asking this question, it's just a question that came up now. Mark asking whether, like with the scrap metal industry, is there something in place for installers to make a bit of extra money on panels, for example, if we were to scrap them and return them, or how does that process work, or is it still coming up?
It's not coming up. So you're saying if the installers behaved like a third-party collection mechanism, is that what you're saying? And sort of like a middleman to facilitate that? Do I understand you correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there for installers, is there an income opportunity for installers out of products that are being scrapped?
Okay, so there's two. I think it could mean one of two things. One is like the collection middleman guy, and then the other is, could we maybe resell those products if they've still got another 8 years life in them?
Yes.
The answer, if it's the first one, is I don't think so. Not in the case of the way Rubicon has structured it, because the agreement we have with our PRO is that it's door to door. So if I phone up and say, go to Mrs. Jones's house and collect those 8 solar panels that we installed in 1993, they will do that. So there isn't really, well, maybe other than physically removing them off the roof, there's no facilitation required. If you meant the latter, in other words, you meant that, what about this stuff that might have a few years left in it? That is a good question. In principle, the service is a destruction service. So we're paying ABC company to go fetch that stuff and destroy it and remove the raw materials out that can be salvaged. And therefore, it's not really a second life conversation. But I agree with you, there will probably be mountains of solar panels that actually still have a few miles left on them, even if they're only producing 90% of the label. Hey, that's cool for me. And in a way, the sort of upcycling or recycling them in that way is also a desirable outcome. But I don't think the law specifically addresses it. Dylan, maybe you're welcome to comment if you know that there's a way for that to happen, to sort of, instead of destroying them, recycle them or repurpose them.
No, nothing like that has even come up in our meetings with the PROs. I think because it's such a new thing, I don't think they even catered for that yet. Maybe at a later stage.
Okay, that's great. Nick, thank you very much. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Welcome to carry on with your slide.
Okay, we haven't got too far to go, so I'll just finish up. So you can see the approximate costs here. Solar panel, $30, battery, $60, inverter, $29. Those are just kind of indicative. They can be more and they can be less. If you buy anything from Rubicon, you will see these fees are itemized and they're in our invoice. And the reason we did that was with the margins, there's not enough margin to absorb it, and it does add up to quite a lot of money over the, we have a quarterly payment cycle. At the end of the quarter, it's large numbers, so we can't just absorb that. So we've passed them on. But we wanted to make sure that it was clearly put on our invoices so that our customers didn't say to us, oh, but you guys aren't competitive. You're $40 more than company ABC. here's the reason. We're EPR compliant, and there is a cost associated with that, and this is what it is. Okay, so you might say, well, I've never heard about any of this stuff. This sounds like a lot of hot air. Somebody's just making money. That was our first response as well. But here are the government gazettes where they were promulgated. So you're welcome to take a screenshot and go and dig around in the government gazettes if you like. But we studied them extensively. And as I said at the beginning, we did get legal opinion, and they confirmed this is all 100% legally in force already. It's not like something that's coming and we can argue about it, or maybe we should challenge it. It is already a law. It is already in place, and you're already legally liable for it. Now, what happens if you didn't know about this, and last year you just brought in 2 or 3 containers of A, B, C, D, and E, and you didn't know about it? What now? Unfortunately, the news is not good. You are still already legally liable for it. You still have to cover that cost. You may well get away with it, and maybe nobody will ever know, but it's a fact that those goods, any goods imported after November 2 years ago, are already they are covered by this ruling or the law. Okay, challenges and concerns. So consumer prices will rise due to increased product costs. It is what it is. There's nothing you can do to get around it. Compliant companies will face an uneven playing field. And we said this is something that Rubicon said, well, if we go ahead and we're adding this couple of % to our price, we're effectively being penalized in the marketplace for being compliant. And it is a true statement, but it still doesn't change the law. Okay, there are extended periods before recycling of energy products becomes necessary, impacting the ROI for the scheme. So, there's a 10-year period, or maybe even a 20-year period in the case of a solar panel. Imagine you can do the maths for yourself, simple maths, right? Taking a megawatt of 500-watt panels, and there is multiply that by $30, let's say. There is quite a lot of money that sits in somebody's account doing nothing, literally nothing, for 20 years before those products are finally retired. And that is a fact. That is true. And it is a concern. Who knows where that money will be in 20 years' time. And it's large numbers of amounts of money. When you look at, you multiply it by the hundreds of megawatts or up to gigawatts that people are estimating are coming into the country, it's big numbers. Implementing a new internal system is necessary for efficient reporting and data management, which is costly and requires resources. That's true. We had to make some changes to our ERP so that it calculated all of this automatically, and there's costs and effort involved in that. And then recycling of solar panels incurs elevated fees primarily due to their weight, in contrast to other regulations where fees are based on volume. So certain things are recycled based on volume if they're light, and certain things are based on weight. It does, the cost is not immaterial, as I've said, and again, there's not really anything to say about that. Any questions? I see there's a bit of chat. I'm just going to have a quick look and see if I can read anything there.
In your previous slide, or maybe 2 or 3 slides ago, you had a value of 60 Rand on a lithium battery, but yes, that one. But I believe that 60 Rand would be based on the rate per kilogram in the previous slide.
Correct. So I can go back. Sorry, if the maths doesn't add up, you can make fun of Dylan. So if it's 2 or 3 Rand a kilo, so let's say a battery is 20 kilo, that's about right. That's about right. $60, $80. So it depends, if you've got a 4 kilowatt hour battery or you've got a 12 kilowatt hour battery, obviously it's different, right?
Yes. Wow. Okay. 3 Rand for 3 Rand per kilo. So the average 5 kilogram lithium battery weighs about 50 kilos. So that's 150 Rand on each lithium ion battery.
Yeah.
And the 60 Rand over here would be more for a lead acid based type of battery, because the last time I had a 20 kilogram weighing battery in my hands was, I think, my car battery, and that was the lead acid.
Yeah. I see Ignatius Frenier asked, if we use a bomb to manufacture a product and sell the product as a separate SKU, will this fall under it? Yes, it will. So the way that would work is, let's say you're building like an all-in-one inverter in a box, and you've bought a battery from China and an inverter from China, and you put the two together. How does it work? Dylan, comment here if you disagree with me, but I think the way that would be seen is that it would be a final product, and the final product would be levied in and of itself. So you would get a PRO to agree a cost per kilo to recycle the whole thing, and then that whole thing would be treated as the EPR, and you as the manufacturer, that's where the liability would lie.
Okay.
That's
great.
another.
Nicholas has also asked a there, but I think that Nick,
so it's a concern that everybody has. Do you know if the funds will be ring-fenced for disposing and recycling of goods? So the government is not actually involved in the management of the funds. The funds sit in private entities. So the PROs are not government entities, they're private entities, and they have financial structures to manage those funds. So I think everybody is naturally a bit suspicious to where is this money going to end up. It's not a government conversation, it's a private entity conversation. Okay, and then the next question is, how will the funds be used specifically for the goods that are recently imported? There's a lot of materials that has been imported into the country and that would need disposing and recycling. It's the same thing, exactly the same. So think about, everybody knows that there's a lot of solar panels sitting in warehouses at the moment, probably a couple of 100 megawatts. There is a liability attached to those, whether they've been sold or not. The law says that you pay based on import, not based on sales. So we initially were paying based on our invoices, and you actually have to pay based on what you brought in. So yeah, that money is kind of effectively due when it crosses into South Africa and is released to you. It's not like you have to pay it the same day, but nonetheless, that's what triggers the billing, if you like. It's the fact that it came into the country, not the fact that you sold it. So those 500 megawatts, you can do the maths yourself. There's I think a 4 million rand bill waiting for those people who are sitting on those. Then Mark said, where is the money going to? It sounds like a bit dodgy. We had the same concern, and we said it to the lawyers who we consulted with, and they shrugged. They said it's irrelevant almost. You know, I know it's not irrelevant, but in terms of your compliance with the law, you have to do it whether you have that concern or not. And you have to choose a PRO who you think is going to be around for 20 years or whatever. And hopefully, yeah, everything is still there when you need it. Then AREP asked, where can the members find a PRO? So they remember that they are registered on the DFFE website. So you can find a PRO on the DFFE website. Dylan, I think it was you who just posted the link there to the list. I'd recommend you go and have a look around there. You'll see who is registered, who's not registered, and who the PROs are as well. There's not just one PRO, because the PROs are specific to the different industries. So, for example, if you're looking at lighting, there's PROs that are specializing in lighting recycling. If you're looking for somebody to recycle solar panels, there's a PRO who does that, or there's multiple PROs who do that. And similarly, you saw there was oil and cardboard and other things as well. So you need to choose based on what you need and what you're selling. All right, that is the end of the presentation. Unless there's any other questions, I'm done.
Nick, that was excellent. Thank you very much. I think you guys should consider registering a PRO. But anyway,
not when you go and read the law, and you'll see why we didn't do it. Even though there's a lot of money waiting to be sat on, the pain is also fairly intense.
Yes, I can imagine. Okay. That is excellent, Nick. Thank you very much. That was quite insightful. I see just Mark has a last question. So if panels have to be replaced due to hail damage, I've come past this. Do we as installers have to take these panels to the likes of Rubicon? So that kind of brings us back to the PRO.
No, it's an excellent question. So and I think you're probably going to say this sounds like a loophole, but it really isn't. The way that the contract and the way that the law is written is things that are warranty failures are not covered by it, and things that are like damage, like fire, theft, or not theft, but fire and hail, and fell off a truck or whatever, are also not covered by it. I don't know why that's the case, because you've paid the fee, right? So you would say, well, obviously. So you've actually got to pay to recycle that, and separately, it's not covered inside the product itself. Specifically, the law is talking about end of life. If you go and read the letter of the law, it's true, it does say that. It's like, okay, this thing has now reached the end of its useful life, it needs to be recycled. If you put a panel in there that wasn't working, nobody's going to go and test it to see if it failed or if it was actually end of life, obviously. But according to the technicalities of it, that's the way it works. But let's say you brought in, you now do have such a plant, and you did buy the goods from us. Fortunately, we serial track everything we sell, so we know where you didn't buy it from company ABC, who don't do it. And I can tell you that almost all of our competition do not do it. That there's maybe one or two of our competition who are looking at it but haven't fully implemented. So we will check if the serial numbers are ones that we sold. If they were, just phone us and say, hey, you don't have to even bring them to us. You can phone us and we'll collect them from you. It's the way that our agreement works with our PRO. They send a truck, they go and fetch them. If you have one in the back of your bakkie or whatever, we will start a recycling bin here. We haven't done it yet because, well, nothing's end of life yet since we've been doing it. But we will be able to also receive them locally if that's a requirement at one of our branches. So our PRO terms and conditions are either bring it to our branch or phone us and we'll collect them from your site.
Wow. Nick, thank you very much. This was fascinating. Raymond, I think I'm going to close the meeting with Raymond's last question, saying, I assume that this would apply to imports for personal use too, but I don't think so, because the information that you enter when it's a business-related import, you actually have documentation that looks at the import codes and that kind of thing, whereas if it's something that's brought in personally, it might just be a gift and it kind of slides past.
I think so, yeah. I haven't seen any provision for that in the text that I've read. It doesn't say anything about if you bring it in for yourself, you have to provide for it or something. I haven't seen that.
Okay, that is amazing. Thank you very much. Oh, I have one, Nick. This is not related to anything you've presented, so I'm just going to answer Kevin's question, and then I think we are going to end the meeting. Kevin posted a test report. Guys, it's important to understand when we start looking at industry bodies. When we start looking at industry bodies like the ECA, the ECB, SAPIA, AREP, those industry bodies are all known as non-profit organizations, and none of them have mandatory registration, and none of the work that they do or publish is law, a regulation, or a standard. So Kevin's question relates to a test report that has the ECA's logo on it, and I can't see the question now, but Kevin's question related to, is the ECA's test report a compulsory requirement? Guys, none of the test reports are compulsory. You don't have to buy the ECA test report. If you go and look at the electrical installation regulation, I think there's a copy of the minimum criteria for the test report on the back of the electrical installation regulations. If you read the electrical installation regulations, it says that you are allowed to print your own electrical installation regulation copies, provided they're all marked or numbered sequentially. So no one is going to be forced to use any organization's test reports. There will be a test report. If there is a test report that is in the back of the standards, you would be able to use that test report and you'd be able to add information. So you'd be able to make the test report more thorough, but you are not allowed to take information out of the minimum requirement that the electrical installation regulations demand. Nick Bester asks, Nick, that's a completely separate question. We'll look at Nick's question, Nick Bester's question just now. So the bottom line is, if you want to use the AREP test report, use it by all means. If you want to add your logo to it, add your logo to it. If you want to manipulate it or change it or add information or take information away, for now you can do it. The finalized format for test reports for solar installations has not been agreed upon, and it's at the moment it's not even a thing. So you are welcome to either use I know the ECA as a version, I know AREP as a version, and then three indifferent. You're welcome to use any one of the three. I would obviously, it would be nicer for you to use the AREP one, but if I had to be independent, you are welcome to use either one of the three. Nick wants to know what the best cleaning products are. Guys, demineralized water. So when you go and have a look, at the warranty conditions of the panels that you are cleaning. You'll find that some of the larger manufacturers have specifications for the water, and they will tell you what the chlorine level should be and what the different mineral levels should be in the water. So that's your ideal product. We have seen products coming into the market that they have a specific name for. Yes, I can't remember. But it's just, if you go and Google it and you look it up, most of the stuff, most of the cleaning equipment or cleaning solutions that are available on the market at the moment has been marketed very well. Maybe I should just say that. So rather go and do your research. If you want to start using a product, go and do your research and make sure that, I don't know what that is. Am I still in the meeting? Which may include third-party models. Sorry, guys, I just got this random message on my screen. So do your research, find your product, and make sure you've got all the boxes ticked. George, Nick, are you still in the meeting? I see George Jennings has a question here. Let's just see if Nick is still in. No, it doesn't look like it.
Yeah,
no,
he
Nick
said
Roche.
drop off, but I don't know if someone else from Rubicon is still here, maybe.
Yeah, sorry, what was the question? I'm just trying to look for what was the question that was asked?
Following on Mark's question, if it's an insurance claim, the client may be able to recover the costs of disposal. All depends on the extent of the cover provided. So that was, wow. The client may be able to recover the costs of disposal. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Yeah,
I'm still not too sure about that.
And it would have to be a massive product. It would have to be a massive project for the client to even consider having to recover the costs of disposal. If you look at the £3 a kilogram thing, for example, I mean, if you have a 1 or 2 or 3 megawatt hour battery coming to the end of its life, then trying to recover that cost would be viable, but there might be other opportunities for getting money back on recycling some of that product. So yeah, I don't know. Nick has checked out. Who's still in the meeting? Is Dylan?
Yeah, it's me. No, I don't actually know. Hey, I can find out for you, but yeah, I wouldn't know in this situation.
Dylan, thank you very much. I don't think you need to fuss about that too much. Guys, It shouldn't be too difficult if you have more questions to find Nick. You would be able to have access to the recording of this meeting. So that's it. I think that kind of brings us to the end of this session. I hope I've answered everybody's questions. Thank you very much for joining us. I think that was an excellent presentation and a whole lot of interesting information being shared. Thanks to the guys for Rubicon for the presentation and for sharing that information with us. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep well. Bye.
So I'm gonna read that. Okay, so I'm gonna.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.